Hello, my loves,
Hi, everybody.
and welcome to How's My Light? How's my light?
I think your light is good.
We're having technical difficulties tonight, guys, so just bear with us. We really had some grand plans of this being the official first podcast. The one that we posted the other night, we referred to that as the test pancake. And if you read
what a pancake it was.
and if you read my description as to what that means, for those of you who don't cook, it's in the description in that video. You can figure it out. But we had plans of this being the first official one. We're going to see how it goes. We're having some technical difficulties. Both of us are kind of laggy. For whatever reason, I've moved my operation into the bedroom. This is where, incidentally, Mel, this is where I set up my L table, was in the bedroom.
Really?
Yeah. It works out quite well. So it's right by the window. So
Excellent. So your bed's behind you then?
My bed's behind me. Yes.
Awesome.
My pineapple and my dancers are in the background. So the bed's behind me. I haven't gotten my artwork up, but that'll come. In any case, welcome to the first ever How's My Light official podcast.
Oh, Lord, have mercy on us.
All. I want to put out a disclaimer there for both of us in saying that we are not professional therapists. If for whatever reason you feel that you need, and we both highly recommend it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. If you feel the need that you need to speak to somebody on a professional level, please do so. Even if that moment of, gosh, I should really talk to somebody. If it's not us, if it's not friends, and you got to kind of be careful of the friends that you are speaking to and making sure that they're breathing the right life into you and helping and not hindering. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. We've got a couple of topics.
Yeah. And I want to take that a step further.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think that there's a single person on the planet that doesn't need someone professional to talk to from time to time. It doesn't have to be, for the rest of your life. It doesn't have to be for the rest of the year. Sometimes we just need to get squared away and figure out our coping skills. And a therapist can really, really help with that.
I agree. I also think it doesn't have to be something traumatic that is happening in your life. Sometimes it's just you've got a lot going on and you just need to feel a little bit more centered, and oftentimes a therapist can do that. They provide the professional soundboard that we all need on occasion. So thank you for that. We're going to go into a couple of different topics tonight. There's just two that we're going to focus on. And we have a subscriber that has asked us a question that we're going to address at the end of this podcast too. We're going to try and help this person out with a little bit of advice that they asked for. So one of the things that I'm going to talk about, and I felt really strong.
Duchess?
She loves it over here. I don't know if I can.
It's the window.
Yeah, she's by the, ignore my boxes. You can't really see her, but hold on.
She's watching for the squirrels.
She's watching outside. I have the blinds lifted up just a little bit. Oh, my phone's gonna fall. I have the blinds lifted up just a little bit so that she can plop down and kind of watch outside, and she absolutely loves that. Oh, my stuff is falling over. Oh no, I don't know what to do.
You're right. A mess, Susan.
Mess. Okay, I gotta figure it out. Anyway, moving on. Just gotta reel that back in. Something that I felt very passionate about this morning. When I have a tendency to meditate, and when I was just when I open my eyes, if I don't have to go to work somewhere, I take my time and I just kind of open my eyes and just kind of get my mind right for the day. Whether there's work or not, my mind needs to be right for the day. There's always, because my mind never shuts off, it's difficult for me to so So I take that time in the morning to pull it all together. And something that just hit me that I had this overwhelming need to talk about forgiveness. So I'm going to talk about that today. Mel's going to kind of talk about something that goes hand in hand with that. So we're going to, and what we were just talking about a little bit ago of making sure that the people that you talk to are breathing the right life into you and not sucking the air out of you. Yeah. So I'm gonna toss this. I'm just gonna volley that over. I don't know what sound that was. Over to Mel.
Oh, you're sending it over to me?
I'm lobbing it over to you, love.
What are we lobbing over?
Were you not listening to anything I just said? Come on, Karen. I don't know what's going on right now.
Can we just pretend it was a technological glitch?
Was I frozen?
I think maybe you were.
I don't think that I was.
Sure you were.
She totally wasn't listening to me.
There was a cat coming toward me, and I have all kinds of things on my counter, and I had to nail her.
I'm trying to segue you in. I'm trying to cue you in. You gotta pick that up. Like, if you don't know your lines, I can't help you.
What happens when I don't interrupt you?
Yeah, I know. You're like, squirrel. What I was talking about was the topics that we're talking about tonight, and my overwhelming need to talk about forgiveness. And along those lines, throttling it back to what we said earlier is to make sure that that the people that you're speaking to and seeking guidance from, if it's not from a professional therapist, counselor, psychiatrist, whoever, on a professional level, make sure that those people that are close to you, that they are breathing the right life into you and not sucking the life out of you. And so that's something that you're going to talk about tonight. And that is when I lobbed it over to you.
I got it.
Okay. There we go.
I think that so many people, especially a lot of the people that I know, their friends and family who want to be supportive, who try to be supportive, who try to help, tend to do the opposite. And we don't know it until it's too late. I have had a lot of toxic people in my life. My first marriage, my husband and I were both toxic to one another, and we poisoned each other the entire time that we were married and dating. Don't get me wrong, I got 2 beautiful kids out of it, but we were toxic for one another. Recently, I had an enormous falling out with my husband's family. And I won't go into details for it, but it had a lot to do with their religious beliefs versus my spiritual beliefs. And I can't remember if we got that. I don't remember which video we recorded the other night that talked about the one that's missing, the one that's MIA. I'm pagan, and so I lead a very different spiritual life than most people who were in my circle. So that was a huge clash on that. And because of assumptions and things like that, there was a head, and it was just, the ties had to be cut. I had no problem doing that. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I couldn't have done it. But because I have been working so much on my boundaries, and I think that is the biggest thing when it comes to dealing with toxic people or people that don't necessarily have your best interests in mind, you have to figure out what your boundaries are, first of all. Second of all, you have to be willing to do what's uncomfortable to get to a point where you can speak those boundaries and hold those boundaries. For years, I thrived on chaos and drama and all the gossip I could stand, and everybody's, coming to me with what's going on, and this person said that, and I ate it up like it was candy, and it was more like the candy apple in Snow White. It was absolutely poisonous to me. And I found myself getting back there, which I'm not happy about at all. I made some cracks the other night on our practice pancake that I'm not very proud of. And I apologize for those. It's very tough sometimes to recognize other people's toxicity, but it's really hard to even recognize your own until someone either points them out or says something that you suddenly is like, whoa, okay, yeah, oh boy, yeah, I did do that. You have to really identify what the purpose is for every single person in your life. And I've told my children as they were growing up, I've told them as adults, I will tell other people, I think I've probably told Anne Marie, everything has a season. When people come into our lives, they aren't always meant to be a lifetime relationship. In elementary and junior high, especially junior high, we meet people and we're best friends, we're inseparable, and we go everywhere together and we stay overnight at each other's houses. And 6 weeks later, we finally emerge from our little friendship Siamese twin thing, and our parents see us again for the first time. And we think that friendship and those relationships that we make along the way are going to last forever. And anyone who has gone through a breakup or gone through a move from one area to another where you have to make new friends. Before the internet, that was very, very hard to do, to keep up with old friends through letters or phone calls or whatever. Sometimes you just lose touch. But as adults, we meet people, but we still think, oh, they're going to be here forever. We won't fight. We won't have any disagreements. And as we talked about the other night, you and I have had disagreements. But we have to recognize when someone is not in our corner. We have to recognize what their purpose is, like I said before. And if that purpose is not a good one, then we need to evaluate if we are there for them. It's sometimes we get stuff, we're able to get stuff from other people. And sometimes it's the other way around, that the other person needs us for whatever time frame that is. And if you can't find a reason that person is there for you, and you can't find a reason or see how you may be helping the other person, then it's time to evaluate whether or not that person gets to stay. For years, I've had Facebook, I think now for 12 years. And I have gone through and cleaned house probably more times than I can remember. But it's one of those things where I just feel like if I'm getting bogged down and I find myself getting agitated with social media or what I'm seeing in my timeline, or I'm, getting upset about something that has absolutely nothing to do with me. If I'm getting sucked into that tornado of bleh, for lack of a better term, then
that's a word.
That's a technical term.
Yeah.
If you're getting sucked into that, then you need to get out of it. Nothing good comes from hurricanes and tornadoes. And so when you get put in the suck zone, as they said on Twister, you don't want to be in the suck zone. You need to be able to see clearly. And if people or conversations or things that you're doing or places that you're hanging out at, if they're not filling your cup in a positive way, then they're dumping poison into it, and that's not something that you want to have going on. Cutting off an entire half of the last 20 years of my life, I thought would be very difficult for me. I was very upset about it for the first few days, not so much for myself, but because of the torment that I know my husband was going through at the time. But I think that the relief I felt was because I was able to be myself finally. And I didn't have to hide parts of myself. I didn't have to pretend to go along with what was expected of me, or what people thought I should be like. I've ultimately been the same person down in my core since I was probably 15 years old. I had to grow up pretty quick. My mom died when I was 15, as did Anne Marie's, or she was 16, but we lost our moms very young. And so we had to grow up very quickly. And who I am and what is important to me, the specifics have changed over the years, but the overall gist of who I am has not really changed. I'm a caring person. I'm a loving person. I will go to bat for you anytime I see it needed. I don't want anyone hurt. And the only thing that has really changed about that over the last, I would say the last probably 2 or 3 years, is I'm no longer fighting anyone else's battles, unless they ask me to and they need some help or advice. But I'm not putting up with other people's shit, and I'm not afraid to tell them why. Sometimes it takes me a little while to put it together tactfully. I am very reactive, and I tend to react very knee-jerk, which is not becoming, but I'm working on it. Thank God I'm a work in progress always. But when those toxic people, and you can tell that they're toxic if all they do is complain. You can tell that they're toxic if they keep telling you the same stories of how so-and-so is a bad person and how the other person is a bad person and the third person is just awful to them. And no, sometimes at some point when you have a history of no one in your life sticking by you in a storm, it's not the storm that's the problem. It's you. And if you recognize people in your life that are doing that, then you need to get away from them. Toxicity is a cancer. I have relatives that are toxic. I have friends that have been toxic in the past. I've had acquaintances that I've been toxic with. I had a friendship with a celebrity, actually, very briefly, mind you, but I had grown up just adoring the man. And, you have a certain expectation from someone, and it was the coolest thing in the world to be able to sit and talk with that person and have conversations and, express how much how much admiration I had for them. And then within 2 or 3 months, he finally showed his true colors to me as to what kind of person he really was. And I still wasn't afraid to walk away from that. And I reckon, everybody thinks that I'm incredibly strong or that I'm smart-mouthed or that I'm tough or that, if there's a problem, I'm gonna solve it. And that's not really who I am. I'm very sensitive. I'm very thin-skinned. I put my vulnerabilities out there, and sometimes that can be good and sometimes that can be bad. But I'm not the tough person everybody thinks I am. So for me to tell someone, I don't need to be treated like this. And until you can treat me better, I don't need you in my life. I've done it to all 3 of my children at one point because of situations that we've had come with, between us. And it doesn't have to, that the conversation doesn't have to be one that's hateful or mean or filled with name calling or things like that. It just needs to be concise, and you need to stick to your boundaries. And it shouldn't matter who it is. If they're treating you badly, you need to get out. You need to get away from that situation. That can be, like I said, friends, family, a spouse, your children, elders. Everyone says respect your elders. And I have a problem with that. And that's probably going to make me a bad guy, but I respect people who respect me back. And if someone shows me a reason not to respect them, I will be polite and then I will go, because I don't care who they are, young, old, close, not close, best friend, husband, children, mothers, grandparents, whoever, if someone is taking advantage or using their cancerous words for probably the most effective explanation, if someone is using their own cancer against you, then that's when it's time to get out. And I'm going to be doing some research and trying to figure out, you know, some different tips and hints and things like that that I will put on our Facebook page, so that you can kind of comment and give feedback and things like that. But yeah, it's hard enough having to grow up, because we're always growing up. I'm 45, I'm still growing up. We're still growing.
I'm not.
You're 6.
I'm this many.
But we're constantly growing and we're constantly evolving, and you have to be able to evolve safely. And the toxic people and the toxic situations and the toxic places in your life are not where you're going to do your best growing. You know, if you think about a plant and you put a plant, you know, you buy 2 of the same plant, you put one plant in a room that you never go in, or a closet or wherever, where it's, and I'm losing my words tonight, but it's isolated and it's, you know, it doesn't have exposure to sunlight and it doesn't have exposure to energy around it like humans and animals, and but the general vibration that's going on in your home. And then you have another plant that you put in the middle of the living space that you spend the most of your time in. You know, it's getting sunlight from the windows, it's getting the energy from the people around it. The plant in the room that's isolated is not going to grow as much as the one is where you're around positive energy. And the same is true for people. We cannot be our best and project our best light if we are not in a good place and we're not surrounding ourselves with good people. I will be very honest with you. I have a lot of good friends, but I have one close friend besides my husband, and she's on the other side of the screen. She's this way. This way?
Nope. Nope. The other way. The other way.
This way?
I'm
all confused.
The other way, Karen. You gotta go the other way.
No. Leave me alone.
No.
I've learned that every battle is not my battle to fight. Because sometimes battling for someone else costs me my positivity, and it costs me my energy, and it's not worth it. It's just absolutely not worth it. I will give second chances, and there's nothing wrong with that, but my walls get put up and I'm very cautious, and I hold those people at a distance for a while until I know that their intentions are good. And I think that letting someone live in your head after they're gone is just as toxic as well. You know, it's easy to become consumed by what someone thinks of you after you let them go, or, you know, that they're still controlling who you talk to or how you talk or what you want to do with your life or something like that. You know, those boundaries are all the way around everything you do, and they have to be, because otherwise something can sneak in and you don't realize it, and it's going to hit you upside the head. You know, there's emotionally manipulative people that will purposely take advantage of a person or will purposely be toxic. They know they're being toxic. They enjoy it. They thrive on it. They feed on it. And they're not happy until you are toxic too. And those are probably the most dangerous people. But you just have to be self-aware of what you're doing. And if you find yourself crabby, like I am tonight with this whole technological issue, if you find yourself crabby, you need to sit and just kind of take inventory and be like, okay, what has me irritated? And before we started recording, I'm high energy tonight. I am really anxious, shit's off kilter. It's just off kilter. And I identified what the reason is. And now that I know what the reason is, I can work with a reason and calm that down because I know what the problem is. But sometimes that uneasiness doesn't go away because we tend to be afraid to tell family that you don't want to spend time with them, or, you know, you don't want to be that person that's like in my family, for instance, I'm the bitch. I'm known as the bitch because I say what I think and I don't have too many regrets about it. But when the truth comes out, the bottom line is I'm polite. I don't stay mad at people. Typically, there's one person I can think of that I've stayed mad at for a long time, and I'll address that a little bit. But if someone is constantly, you know, demeaning you and whatnot, family or not, set your boundaries and stick to them.
Agreed. I feel like we're frozen. Is there more? Are you lobbing that to me? Do you have more that you would like to talk about?
Yes.
No. It looks a little different.
We need to get like similar bandanas that I just like throw to you and you catch, and
we need to work on your segue.
Yeah, I know.
I really was like just sitting there waiting for you to say more. Like I was listening. I was
sorry. I felt like I was rambling.
No, you were fine. I was just waiting for more. I didn't want to interrupt. I didn't want to take over. I didn't want to start talking about, you know, what I'm about to talk about, and until you were finished. But I was like, I don't know that she's done yet. She could be thinking before she wants to speak, and I should allow that. I'm holding.
You should know that.
We're trying to be professional here.
We're not professional. I will tell you though, look what I put on for the first time in a month.
Yo.
That's how much I care about our viewers, people. That's how much I care about you. If the bra comes out, you know I love you. Back to you, Cheese.
This morning, though, she wasn't that caring about me.
Yeah, I posted something on my Facebook. I slept in a, I don't even know what it was, but it's like this little nighty dress thingy. It's supposed to be a dress, but I slept in it because it's comfortable and it's really thin, so I don't really want to wear it in public. But it gathers up. It's got strings and it gathers up at the neck. And I posted about how I went to bed with this cute little nighty dress thingy covering both my boobs, and I wake up looking like Andre the Giant. One boob was hanging totally out of the nightgown, and the other one was trying to make its entrance. And she's just like, you are not right. I'm like, covered up the nipple because I love her, took a selfie and sent it to her. So you're welcome.
Hey. The gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely. Somebody's got to see my boobs, and my husband has been home.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord.
Lord. Lord.
One thing I will add to what I had to say, I saw a quote the other day, and it said, I think, judge me by the people I avoid. And I think that that's really, really important. You know, if someone is watching you or looking at you, for instance, my husband is in city council, and so they expect me to be prim and proper and professional, and fuck that. I'm not professional. I don't have a problem calling people out on the bullshit. But you also have to look at the topics I do avoid, and the people that I avoid, and the situations that I don't put myself in. And that's where it kind of all begins, is avoiding those situations and the places and people that make you feel bad about yourself or feel bad about other people, because all it takes is one piece of it to get in, and it sticks like sand. And let me tell you, friends, it does not turn into a pearl.
Agreed. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you said. Well said, friend.
Thanks.
Good job. Nice work out of you, buddy. I wanted to touch base on something that you did said. I made a note here. You were talking about friends and family and expressing yourself and them making you feel bad, or them calling you, you're known as the B word. I'm not big on, swearing.
I know you're not. I do it enough for both of us.
I'm not big enough, but not a nice person, basically. And I can't remember, because we are both, verbose. I couldn't remember, and maybe you'll remember which video. We had a whole video. We did a second video, guys, just so you know. We did a second video the other night after the one that we had actually posted, the test pancake one. We did a whole one, and it was a really good conversation.
It was so good.
So deep. It was so good. Unfortunately, this dum-dum, I think, shut my laptop. I shut my laptop. I just closed it before the recording had a chance to finish converting. So it's still sitting in my files, and I have sent it over to the Zoom team to see if they can manually convert it. So it's not completely lost in the ether, but I have not heard back. I'm sure that with everything that's going on and as many people that are using Zoom currently, it's not exactly a high priority for them. And that's okay, because we can probably fill up about 12 hours of us just talking about life.
We're already at 54 minutes. So.
Are we at 54 minutes recorded?
We are.
All right. Well, we're going to go, because I haven't had a chance to launch into my subjects, but back to what I was saying, the note that I made about being in those situations where people make you feel less than what you are, just by the way that they behave around you, certain things that they say to you, little snide remarks, whatever it is that they try to slide under the radar, whatever it is. We talked about the other night how, in the test pancake, how I firmly believe in open, honest, calm communication. But what that requires, what honesty requires, is a safe space. It requires the other person on the receiving end to be a safe place, a safe space for you to be able to express yourself honestly. If that does not happen, if for whatever reason they have said even one remark that makes you feel less than what you are, they have now deemed themselves an unsafe place for you. And what that sets them up for is for them to be lied to out of fear. So it is so unbelievably important when she talks about toxic people, and when I talk about making sure that the people that you are talking to are breathing life into you, that those people are a safe space. They're a safe place for you to be as open and vulnerable as you possibly can. If they are not calm people by nature and you are a calm person, and I'm not saying like high energy, because I love high energy people. Yeah, I gravitate towards them because I am high energy too around the right people, but I'm also very reserved. So I gravitate to those who are very joyful and boisterous and just social, because that's the dark in me. That's the light that I need. To balance me out, I need other people on the other side to help me stay out of my shell or come out of my shell a little bit. So I try to surround myself with the people that have such a great, kind, gentle spirit, but are happy and joyful. Do you know what I mean? Like, because
Absolutely.
not that I'm not happy and joyful, because I happen to think that I am.
You're a 6-year-old.
But I need more of that in my life because I'm also a very serious person. And that, that goes back to us both having to grow up really quick. And there are times where I get really serious. I'm a serious girl. I don't know where my glasses. I don't know where my glasses are. I should put them on so I look a little more scholarly. Yeah, you can put them on. I don't know where they. I don't know. They're somewhere around here. So I wanted to. That's one thing that I just wanted to touch base on what you were talking about was that honesty requires a safe space.
Yeah.
Part of what she was talking about, and I think this just ties together of the topic that I want to talk about, and her cutting people off. It is necessary. It is necessary, and it is necessary to create boundaries and to hold those boundaries and stay firm in those boundaries. It only will help you grow. You use those boundaries as like stepping stones, right? It's concrete. You're going to step on it and you're going to go to the next place. You're not going to take it with you. You're going over it. So it's necessary to create that boundary, stand on it and stand firm.
Sometimes you need the bodies to climb the wall.
You
You love me.
I love you. You silly girl. Sometimes you can come out of really toxic relationships, really, really toxic relationships, and harbor
Emotionally damaging relationships.
yes, emotionally, mentally, all of that, and harbor so much anger and resentment, and carry that with you as you create a new life for yourself. And I'm speaking specifically about my situation. This is part of what really got me this morning is I carry that anger of not getting an apology from that person who I was married to for a very long time. I got the apology, but I got the apology from someone who I don't believe was sincere and honorable and all of that. And part of that is because he was still harboring a lot of anger. I have all these notes here too. I think for me, in the last few years of really doing some deep healing work on myself, is that forgiveness is such an amazing thing. And that's one of the things that has really come to light for me, especially in just the last 3 years, believe it or not. I've been divorced for, it'll be a full decade this December. It'll be 10 years. And it's taken me in the last 3 to 5 years, but specifically in the last 3 years, to really be in a place of peace, not just with myself and how I finally love myself and have regained that self-esteem that I lost when I was a kid. And I was a very confident person, very shy, but still confident in things that I did and how I felt in my beliefs and speaking my truth. And I lost that along the way, but I finally understood in doing that deep work. And a lot of it had to do with forgiveness. And for me, forgiveness is not about, it's not about seeking that apology, that validation of, how sometimes when you're like, I deserve an apology. Like, you really hurt me. Like, you destroyed me. But you got to understand that forgiveness isn't about seeking the validation that you were right. Does that make sense?
Right.
That
Absolutely.
like you hurt me, you wrecked me, you destroyed me. Now I
Yeah.
need to apologize so that I can feel that I was right about that.
Right.
I was, but that's not the whole point in forgiveness, at least not to me. Again, everything that I'm talking about, that's just from my experiences, and my beliefs and things that I worked on and have gone through. So for me, it's more about letting go of that hurt. I've written this down, that the other person was feeling that I lost my train of thought. It's about letting go of the hurt that the other person was feeling that caused them to project it onto you. And what I mean by that is the burden was never yours to carry. So if I just put this in an example, my ex-husband, and I can say this now very sincerely and very just it's truth. He is funny. He is hilarious. That is one of the things that attracted me to him in the first place. He's stupid funny. And he's wicked smart. I mean, I know that you joke about that, Mel, that you're like, oh, the IQ dropped a few points. But do you really think that I would marry somebody who is not intellectual?
Oh, no. No.
It's said in, in somewhat of jest that she's saying that because he is very, 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 very smart guy. But he's so unbelievably broken.
Yeah.
Unbelievably broken. He had, and I don't want to speak for him. Even if he watched this, I think he would agree with what I'm saying. Is that he had a really messed up childhood, super messed up childhood, and I don't want to go into detail about that, but it was super messed up, and he carried that through his adulthood. And there's a two-way street there, because I carried a lot of stuff into my household too. There's my notes. I've got pages, y'all, pages. There's always two. There's one version of the story and the other person's version of the story, and then there's the truth. And I'm in the truth right now. He'd probably disagree because he's an opinionated dude and he's never wrong.
Well, and I think that pride sometimes gets in the way for him as well.
Oh, he's all about pride. I mean, maybe not anymore. I can't honestly speak to that because I haven't spoken to him in a very long time, and he may have been going through some stuff. I know he's got some health issues right now, some pretty serious ones.
Yikes.
I wish no ill will on him whatsoever. He's still, at the end of the day, my children's father, and I don't want anything to happen to him because of that. Regardless if our kids are both grown, we're still going to have to interact. If our kids ever get married, that's still, something that we're going to have to work through, being in the same room without me being triggered. That'll take some time, I think. I try to do the best that I can, but.
Well, I will just kind of interject here. Sometimes just seeing someone that you have had such a toxic relationship with for whatever length of time it was, sometimes just seeing that person, at least for me, I had a very similar relationship with my ex-husband, and sometimes just seeing him, I would just tense up, and my shoulders would go up and my teeth would grit, and he didn't have to say a word. Like, it was just the visual of seeing him, and I'm back into 1990. I'm back into 1996, and I'm done. I lose all sense of consciousness. I lose all sense of growth. Everything that I have accomplished is just out the window. So I totally get that.
Yeah. And I think when we were together, and it took me many years after being out of that relationship to be able to look back, that's always hindsight, right? To figure out what it is that it was like oil and water. And part of it is because of his brokenness and because of his unwillingness to get the help that he needed. We tried therapy, couples therapy. It didn't work because he didn't think that he needed it at the time. He desperately needed the work on himself. And I think because of all of the trauma that he went through, that he, by carrying that into the adulthood, and the stuff that I went through, I'm such a nurturer by nature. That's just me. And, with the loss of my mother at such a young age, I feel like I became my own mother in a lot of respects until my stepmother and I got close enough, and she is now most amazing. I'm so blessed to have had two mothers that I did. My stepmom is my father's gone, but my stepmom is still around, and she's my mom. She's mom. In any case, I got a little sidetracked there. The void that I was trying to fill, that I was missing, I was trying to fill by trying to fix him. I was trying to nurture him in a very motherly kind of role. I did everything in the house. You know what I mean? Like I played the role of housewife to a T. I would take on things that it was never a partnership. It was never that 50-50. I took on a lot. He played the role of the breadwinner.
To clarify, was that a role that you were happy with at the time, or was it a role that you felt begrudgingly about?
No. I'm saying, as I'm looking back, that's what I did.
Okay.
In the moment, you don't realize that's what you're doing. You're just doing daily things. You're just doing what you think, you know what I mean? But looking back as the analyst that I am, that is what I was doing. I was trying to fill that void of not having a mother by being one to somebody else. He, in turn, was trying to fill the enormous, vast void of not having either parent. He had a mother that was not, I don't want to talk about his stuff, but she was not great. She was not great. She was an alcoholic. Like she was not great. His dad left when he was 9. So he didn't have parents. And I think that I have to preface that so that people aren't out there going, what do you mean? Like, what's wrong? Like, you didn't have parents? Did they die or whatever?
Yeah.
No. But he, in turn, was trying to fill that void with me by trying to mold me into the person, into that motherly role, into that perfect wife, into that he did not have.
Right.
Those are the two dynamics that were pretty much our entire relationship. And I don't realize that, and did not realize that until much, much, much later, after we were divorced and after I kind of sat with it. But I got to tell you that there's a certain freedom in forgiving somebody else for their wrongdoings. I'm not perfect. I did a lot of things I wasn't proud of too. For sure. I behaved in very not great ways. I was very, passive aggressive. And part of that is I didn't have a safe space. He was not safe. And that goes back to me saying honesty requires a safe space, or you are asking to be lied to. You can't demand the truth.
No.
If you have spoken the truth and the reaction on the other end is so angry and combative, you're like, then I'm not going to say it again. Like, I am not going to speak my truth anymore because I don't feel safe in that environment. He was never a safe space for me. So going back to, there's a freedom in forgiving that. There's a freedom when you understand where that person is coming from. I always seek to try to understand, and I've gotten so much better about that in the last few years, is I really want to understand where another person is coming from. I'm an empath, very empathetic, but I've honed it a little bit more as I've gotten older. And that helps a lot with so much, misunderstanding when you really sincerely put yourself in that other person's shoes and understand and look from their point of view. And I really did that with him over the last just 3 years, is like, I get it. He might not understand it, or he might say, I don't know what you're talking about, lady. But that's the truth. That's the truth. Both sides, then there's the truth, and I'm walking the truth. But on top of that, not only is there a great freedom in forgiving somebody else, there is an overwhelming sense of peace when you forgive yourself. And that was really hard for me to do, because the guilt that I had for destroying our family by walking away because I just couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't. And I couldn't do it for the kids. I always say never stay together in a marriage for the kids. Kids are resilient. They'll figure it out.
Kids are resilient, but at the same time too, staying in a relationship that's toxic with spouses or partners, you're teaching your children.
Great.
Like, it's completely genetic. You're teaching your children how to be a wife and how a husband is supposed to treat her wife or treat his wife, and vice versa. And if all they see is arguing or passive aggression or all of those toxic behaviors, you're not doing the kids any good. You're not doing them favors. If their home is toxic, you're just as bad as the person that's being toxic to you. I mean, it's something you you just can't do.
That's really for me, for you guys, if anybody's struggling with that, or, you're in a relationship and you're trying to work through it, or you've gotten out of a relationship, or you're just in this place where you're like, well, he did me wrong, and maybe take down that guard, take out that pride, talk to a therapist if necessary, listen to your friends and family who breathe life into you and you feel safe with. Listen to them when they tell you there's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth. It's going to take a hell of a lot of work, but at the end of the day, always walk in truth. It's going to take a lot of digging, a lot of soul searching, a lot of humility, a lot of grace, a lot of understanding that nobody on this planet is perfect. We try to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be, and we should never stop learning and growing. In order to do that, never pigeonhole somebody. If they behaved in a way in the past, perhaps they've worked through it. Perhaps they're a different person than what you knew. That I know that I am a very different person than I was when I was married. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I am as me as I can possibly be. And I have never been more at peace and whole than I am right now.
I'm very envious of that.
It takes a lot of work. And I'm going to talk to you about this too, because I always like to pick her, like I always like to dig into her.
Right.
It's like Michael Rosenbaum. If you guys don't know that podcast, The Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum podcast, I highly recommend it. The end of the podcast, he always says, "Thank you for letting me be inside." Fantastic.
Super.
And I adore him. And it's my favorite podcast. There's only been one episode I haven't been able to listen to. But part of that is in, I don't know where I was going with this. I was going to dig into you. He digs into people. But sometimes he is not as, I think it's therapeutic for him too when he talks to other people and he tries to get other celebrities to open up about their life. It helps him too. But I don't think he's not there yet. He's not as self-aware as I think he wants to be. And I think that's where you are, like with him and his guests, that's how I feel you are right now, like when we talk. And part of that is because she knows that I'll dig. I'm going to dig. We're going to dig. You say that you're envious of that. And I think part of it is you have been in that mode, and we've spoken about this before, in that mode of the fear of abandonment and that control and needing that because of that fear. You've just recently started that work. And we talk about how it's ongoing. It's an ebb and flow. We're always working on ourselves. We're never going to be finished. We should never be finished. We should always be.
Well, then I'm quitting because I need a completion date.
And that's just it. Sometimes I feel like you think that you're there. Like you've gone through it. I've dealt with this. I'm good. When in fact you're just starting.
Oh yeah.
You're just stepping into it, like you were just now getting into that. Oh, okay. So here's the thing I'm going to tell you, okay? Because I love you and I'm a safe space for you.
I am terrified right now.
Patience, 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 patience.
I think I left that in my other pants.
You need to breathe. Whatever, I don't know which wrist it's on.
My left wrist.
You need to trust, and you need to look at both of those wrists several thousand times a day. You need to put little post-it notes at little checkpoints in your house that have little phrases of affirmation that I am a work in progress. Everywhere. So sorry about the interruption.
The thing for me is that I don't do either of those things.
I know.
That's why I literally have them tattooed on my wrist.
I know, but now you need to look at them, honey.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
One of my biggest problems, and the reason that I said that I was envious of you having the ability to forgive and move on, is that my family has never been people who forgive. I have an aunt that is consumed with a grudge against my sister-in-law that she has had since 1982.
Such a waste of time.
My mother was a little better about it, but I only had her for 15 years. And as far as having that maturity, the mature relationship with my mother, very, very minimal. So I never learned how to forgive and let go of it. I'm 45 years old. I don't know how to forgive someone, truly forgive them. I can say the words and I can let down some of the anger, but I don't know what it means to forgive. And that is, I'm sitting here with tears in my eyes because I think that by 45, I should know how to do that. I'm so busy distrusting that it's hard for me to focus on the forgiveness part. How did you get me to cry? Damn you.
That's what I do. You know this.
I know this.
You know this. So that just means that we're in the right place. We're in the right spot. We're talking about the right stuff. So, and your guard is down, and that's a good thing, because by talking about it here, we perhaps are helping someone else. And
I hope so.
That's the whole point of this. So I'm gonna tell you something that I have observed. And something you're like, oh gosh. And what I think when you say that I have a hard time letting go of that anger, of really forgiving, part of it is generational. Part of it is that's what you grew up
Right.
witnessing. That's what was around you. And part of it is throughout the trauma that you have dealt with in your life, it is a coping mechanism. And you
absolutely
bond with it because that's what's comfortable to you. It's like a security. Your anger is a security blanket because that's
it is.
You feel like you have control over.
That makes perfect sense.
We need to get you another security blanket. That one's
like I said earlier,
shredded. It's not one of those whoobies, or as my kids didn't have whoobies, they had blankies. They had blankies when they were babies. It's not one that you're going to want to fold and tuck away and put it in a trunk. This one, man, we're going to put it in a can and we're going to set that bad boy on fire. And we're going to find you a nice, smooth, velvety, purple blanket that's got lamb's wool on the other side of it that you can just curl up on. And that will keep you safe and protected, and you can let that guard down. You can still have boundaries. We just need to figure out how you can let go of the emotion, because the emotion is the drug. It's something that you're comfortable. It's your safe place, and you got the outside of that fear of the unknown, of the fear of possibly letting control. You can control the anger. That's we got to figure out a better way for you, Mama. I believe it can happen, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be I can't snap my finger because Duchess will be over here, and I finally got her to lay down and stop bothering me. She was trying to play the entire time you were talking. She was over here like nudging my elbow, and I was trying to keep it down. She's like nudges like under my arm, like, come on. But oh shoot, she's going over right
now. Way to go, Mom.
And I didn't even snap. If I snap my fingers, that's how it doesn't matter. She like.
Hi, Dutch. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I boring you?
She was literally like that, like, hey, Mom. And then
one of the other things that I do, and I know that I do it, I fully admit it. I own it. I embrace it, good or bad. I have trouble forgiving, but I have very little problem letting go of someone. They're still in my head, and that irritates the hell out of me because they're taking up space that could be taken up with something positive, like I was talking about earlier. But once someone's gone, I rarely let them back. And if I do, it's when I'm in an unstable mental place. Hi, Dutch. Thank you for listening to my problems. I have, like I said, with the situation with my in-laws and that side of the family, I had no problem letting go. And I hold no bitter resentment. I feel bad for them that they don't have open minds. I feel bad for my husband because it puts him in the middle and he feels like he has to choose. But I also have to remember is that I was not the one that put him there. But for me to cut those ties and set those boundaries, I have no problem doing that. It's a go-to for me because then if someone's not in my life, then I don't have to fix the relationship that got broken. And I don't have to face whatever crappy parts of myself may have fed into that dissolving relationship. And I have to work on that too.
We're just starting. This podcast is gonna get good, y'all. Not necessarily this one, but we're moving in the right direction, kids.
Yes, we are
moving in the right direction. So, something else that we wanted to talk about before we actually end this podcast. Where are we at time-wise?
126.
An hour and a half?
Yeah.
Holy buckets, that's fantastic. Thank you for everybody that has lasted this long. I knew that this very first one was going to be a long one, longer than usual, just because of the topics that we were going to talk about and the deep dive that we were going to try to stay on topic and try to keep it reeled in. But I really wanted to spend this time on a serious deep dive. So before we end this, we did mention at the beginning of this that we had a viewer ask for some advice.
Yes.
We're gonna leave this person anytime that you guys message us, if you're not putting it in the comments, if you guys have questions or if you're trying to work through something or whatever, please put it in the comments below, either on our YouTube video or hit us up on the Facebook page. I know that I posted something on the Facebook page earlier today that said, hey, if you guys if there's a topic that you guys would like us to talk about that maybe you're struggling with or anything like that, please put it in the comments below, or you can send us a private message if you feel. We are safe spaces for anybody out there, anybody. That will make me cry.
I am one of these people that I have a lot of flaws, but I do not betray confidences. Period.
I think I can speak freely for you that you are a safe place for people to go to. Because I didn't have that, I was always my safe space, and I always try to be that for other people. It's super important. I think that's why a lot of people feel I could meet strangers. In my new job that I haven't been able to start yet, I sat and I shadowed somebody, and by the end of the night, I knew her entire life story, and I was just sitting there listening. I didn't even prompt it. That happens to me a lot. She just told me. And it's important that when people talk to me that they feel safe. It's unconditional, you guys. It's unconditional here. So in any case, you can send us a private message and we will answer your question here in the podcast, as long as that's all right with you, and you will remain anonymous. But I think it's good for us to be able to talk about it here because you are not alone, my loves.
No.
None of us.
This question is definitely one that I had, and I can guarantee you I've heard it 1,000 times from other people too. So
I think with us talking about it in here and answering the question via podcast will help others, in addition to the person that originally asked this question.
Yes.
So I don't know, you don't have to read. Do you have the question in front of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, she'll read the question. I'm going to let her, Mel, you can talk about some of your struggles and what you've gone through as far as anxiety, depression, and all of that. And we'll talk about, I'm going to let her address this question, but I'll offer some insight at the very end. So go ahead.
First of all, I have had anxiety, bipolar depression. I think at times there has been borderline personality disorder. It has not been real deep, but enough to really kind of at least raise some flags to talk about in therapy and whatnot. I have been dealing with this since I was 4 years old. I am 46 in July. So if that tells you how long I have been a veteran of this and a survivor of this, yay for surviving. It has not been easy. It has not been pretty. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I am not afraid to put myself out there. And I am very, very appreciative to the person that wrote in. I love you, girl. And I'm so glad that you trust us enough to ask this question and put yourself out there. I am going to keep it anonymous. If you write in and you say, it's fine if you use my name, we're still probably going to use you anonymously, just because we don't want you to feel uncomfortable or that, we're going to share all your shit in a gossip podcast or something, because that's
First
not,
of
that's
all,
not who we
that's the exact opposite of what we are or what this podcast is about. So you would never have to worry about
No.
that. I have zero tolerance for the gossip.
Yeah.
People know that. People that I work with, they know, don't bring it to Anne-Marie. She'd be like, work it out among yourselves because I am not a soap opera stop.
Yeah.
That's
Safe space.
safe space. Okay.
Okay, so the question was, the email says, I was recently-ish diagnosed with anxiety, social anxiety, and depression. I get panic attacks way more often than I'd like, and I know a lot of people are also dealing with a lot of the same stuff. But since I'm kind of new to this whole panic attack thing, one thing I have yet to talk to my therapist about is how to calm myself the frick down. I mean, when I am mid-panic attack, uncontrollably sobbing, can't breathe, what are some things that I can do to make that stop faster? Normally, my panic attacks last anywhere from an hour to sometimes up to 3 hours. So any suggestions would be great, whether it's breathing techniques, counting sheep, saying the alphabet backwards, LOL. I just need something to do to bring myself back down to earth. Girl, you have written my story. I remember my first panic attack. Again, I was 4. And I didn't know that it was a panic attack at the time. I didn't know how to self-soothe. All I wanted was my mother. So having lost my mom at 15, I don't have that I need to call my mom thing and have her help me work this out. I have a lot of pseudo moms, but it was something that I had to work on myself to figure out. One of the things that I do, and I don't know how advanced you are at being self-aware of when an attack is pending and could come on. I'm not sure if you can identify what situations trigger these. For me, I've gotten to the point where I know that crowds are a problem. Places I've never been can be a problem. Meeting new people for me can be a problem. Sitting in my living room and doing nothing could be a problem. But for me, and it kind of goes back to my pagan roots, I was given a gift back in 2013 when I was in Colorado, and it is a worry stone. It's got kind of a little divot here, and it's kind of flat and whatever on the back, and you just kind of put it in your hand and rub your thumb back and forth. This obsidian has not left my purse since 2013. If I feel something coming on, that's what I go to. Sometimes, depending on what rocks feel better, and I am a huge crystal collector. It's the pagan part of me. It's the earthy part of me, and I think that knowing you as I do, I think that it's something that could help you as well. The whole time that I was talking earlier, I had this in my hand and I was just going like this. So whether you get, a rock that you pick up off the ground that you can rub, or a piece of fabric that feels good when my son used to, he's going to kill me for saying this. My son, when he was little, used to suck his thumb, and he would take the tag in the back of his shirt, and this one doesn't have a tag, but he would take it and he would bend it in half and just rub it back and forth. If you have sleeves that you can bring down and just kind of just rub your knuckles and just kind of, I don't know, it's soothing for me just to kind of curl up a little bit, and just focus directly on what I'm doing at the moment. And as Anne-Marie said the other night, I can't remember if it was in the Practice Pancake or the Missing Ether video, but it's just, you have to be able to figure out what soothes you in a general sense. And when an anxiety attack starts to come on, use that. Other people, use, and I have some too, essential oils. And I know that there's going to be a crowd of people like, oh my God, you hippie freaks. Lavender oil, just the scent of it is very, very soothing to me. Anne Marie is very sensitive to smells, so that doesn't work for her. But I can put, I put my finger on the top and go like this and put it on the sides of my ears, and that smell is just very soothing. So if there's a scent, a perfume, when I was younger, after my mom died, I had a vial of her perfume. I actually still have it. But I have a vial of her perfume that takes me right back to the 80s growing up and her getting dressed up and ready to go out for the night. For some people, it's the smell of food, or it is food. I eat my emotions. That's why I'm as big as I am. Not the most healthy thing to do, but if you've got something like a piece of candy in your purse, something that can help take you back to a different place or a different time where things were okay, that can be very soothing as well. In the moment when it's happening, it feels like a bomb is about to go off. And I know that feeling well. Anne Marie and my husband are the only two people that can look at me and know that fuse just got lit. So it's important to communicate with your family as well. Talk to your husband, talk to your kids even. Obviously a 4-year-old isn't going to understand what's going on, but I know that your kids are older. So talk to them each on their, at their age level, and just explain, that sometimes you get nervous and you get anxious and you get scared, because it's important for them to know that those feelings are okay as well. They may be having them and you don't even know it. When I was growing up, I had anxiety right after my father had a heart attack and our house burned down. It was in the same month. And from that point on, I skipped school all the time because I wanted nowhere but home. I wanted to be home with my mother. And it was anxiety. We didn't know it at the time because kids in the 80s didn't get anxious and have depression and PTSD, and none of that stuff was known to us at that time. So I think it's very, very important to make sure that those close to you are aware of what's going on and what the best way is to deal with it. For me, when Anne Marie and I have gone on the New Kids cruises, she'll see one coming on and she recognizes it before I do most times. My husband does too. And she knows that people touching me or pushing into me is a huge trigger for me. Fortunately for no one, I have never hit anybody, but I've come very close. But she will just get behind me and just kind of stand like a bodyguard would or a bouncer would at a bar, just stand behind me so that people can't bump into me and nudge me and set that trigger off. So it's important that the people around you know what's going on and what the best ways are for you to ease that tension. One of the other things that I do, and bear with me because my phone is kind of wonky. See if this will do it. That right there is a stack of journals. I have had that stack of journals. You see that? That's a diary from 1988. I wrote about my mother in this diary. Every single one of those journals, but I think 2 of them have things written in them. And it doesn't have to be some long novel. It doesn't have to be anything that solves any problems. It's just the ability to sit down and get your thoughts on paper and get your fears out. So if it's happening at home or if it's happening somewhere where you have a little bit of space to kind of retreat, which is another important thing, just write down the words that are coming to mind at the time. Being able to identify what you're feeling. I think is the start of all of that. Figuring out what you're feeling can help you figure out what can help you. So if I'm having an anxiety attack because I know that there's going to be a conflict, that's another trigger for me. If there's a lot of shouting or if somebody's fighting, I'm done. Like that's it for me. So if I know that I'm in a situation where someone is going to do that, I remove myself from the situation immediately, whether it's leaving wherever it is that I'm at completely, whether it's going to the bathroom and staying in there for a little bit, whether it's going to my car, whether it's going upstairs, downstairs into another room, wherever it is, whatever it is, removing yourself from whatever that situation is probably the best advice that I could give you. As far as the breathing thing goes, you can find a lot of those online, but honestly, what I do is I have a happy place physically, and I have a happy place figuratively. With those two things, I can get calmed down pretty quick. But when you're in the situation, just kind of shut your brain down. And I know how hard that is. My brain is going constantly, but just kind of close your eyes, and whether it's, like I said, fiddling with your sleeves, twirling a ring on your finger, having a bracelet that, you can stretch out, or whatever the case is. The worry stone, like I mentioned before, focus on that thing. For me with the stone, I close my eyes and I'm just doing this. I'm focusing on just the rock, and I'm trying to take my place to a place that I have been the happiest and feel the safest. For me, that place was Half Moon Cay. It was during one of the New Kids cruises, 2 of them actually. But it's the most peaceful for me because I was in a safe space with the friends that I am closest with. It's a warm beach. The water is beautiful. The water is clear. The sun is shining. The sky is blue. It is my perfect place on this planet that I have discovered so far. So that's where my mind goes to when I need to escape from wherever it is that I'm at the moment that's stressing me out. And I just count, I breathe in for 4, counts of 4, and then I exhale for a count of 8. And what that does is it completely expands your lungs. And if you're focusing on your rock and your breathing and feeling all of the sensations that, are in place for your happy place, that will calm you down much quicker than, popping an anxiety pill or anything like that, because it's instant. An anxiety pill, which I've taken antidepressants and anxiety pills for a very long time. They are what keep me from being in jail most of the time. So there's no shame in that. If you need, if you're taking medication or if you're thinking about it, do it. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't necessarily have to be permanent. But sometimes if we're dealing with a lot of stress, we get more anxious. But it still takes time for those pills to work. So it's important that you're able to self-soothe pretty quickly. Crying is okay. Crying is absolutely okay, because what that is, it's a pressure valve. And if your body is doing things that helps let some of that pressure out, let it do that. I'm a crier too. In my panic attacks, I cry. Sometimes I get extremely pissed and I'm really, really upset and nothing is going right. And I feel like throwing hands. I mean, it's awful. Those are ways, not the anger, throwing things is not the greatest, but releasing whatever you're feeling at that time in whatever safe way you can do it is perfectly fine for what you're needing to do. If anger is one of the ways that your panic attack comes together, punch a pillow. find a piece of paper or 7 and just shred them. Just shred the hell out of them. If you need to go outside and kick dirt, go outside and kick dirt. If you need to stomp your feet, stomp your feet. Whatever you're doing that helps that release that pressure is going to be helpful to you. So it's okay to cry. And the key to that, though, is not staying in that state. So that's where, the breathing comes in. That's where retreating to a safe space for you is going to come in. I am in awe of how long your panic attacks last. I would honestly address that with your therapist. And I'm not sure, and you and I can talk more about this, friend, if you want me to, off camera or whatever, to kind of give you some more personalized ideas. But having a panic attack for 3 hours is very scary. I can't imagine having that buildup of emotions and having it last for that long. So that would be something that I would definitely talk to your therapist about. If you can't get into a meeting with him, give the office a call and see if he'll talk to you over the phone. Just to kind of give you some advice on that and what's going to be best for you. Again, we said at the beginning of the podcast, and I'll say it again, I am not a medical professional. I am only someone sharing my experiences and, relaying what has worked for me and what has worked for other people that I know. But I think it's fantastic that you're seeing a therapist. As I said at the beginning of the podcast too, I don't begrudge anybody for seeing a professional for anything, for any reason. It's important that you find someone that you're comfortable with. As Anne-Marie mentioned, he or she has to be a safe space for you as well. I've had therapists that I didn't necessarily trust, and I wasn't, my guard was up. I had been seeing a therapist for a long time, and we had run into some financial issues, and that was one of the things that I just could not afford anymore. And when we were, back on our feet again, it broke me because he was no longer taking new patients. And because I had been out of that practice for as long as I had, I was considered a new patient. So I had to start over with a new therapist. And as you know, many of you probably, it is extremely difficult. So it's okay to change a therapist if it's not working for you. If you're not feeling growth and you're not feeling like it's improving or helping, then it's definitely time to, evaluate whether or not that person is the best person to help you. Some people want to talk to the opposite sex because they feel that they can help enlighten from another viewpoint. Some people stick with same-sex person that you are to, because you feel comfortable with people like that. My therapists typically have been men, just because I feel like, well, for me, it's been a trust issue, and I don't trust a lot of other women. But that's my issue. It's whatever. But making sure that your therapist is somebody that you can talk to freely and openly about anything is very, very important. And safe space or not, as far as how comfortable you feel the first couple of times, it is vitally, and I'm talking vitally important, that you are completely honest with your therapist. If you're doing things that aren't healthy for you, if you're drinking, if you're doing drugs, if you're gambling, if you're spending money that you don't have, if you are using sex as a to blow off steam, if you are, whatever the problem is that is going to cause you more problems down the line, you have to be honest with your therapist about it. It's a hell of a lot harder to jump from therapist to therapist than it is to just be honest with the first one to begin with. I'm not saying that you have any of these issues. I just know that a lot of people feel like, oh, I want to give them the best part of me. I want them to see the best me that I can give them. That's not going to help you. It's not going to help anything in your situation. You need to go to your therapist looking the way you look on every other day of the week. You need to go to your therapist talking the way that you do the rest of the week. Your therapist doesn't want the best you. He wants the parts of you that are hurting you and the parts of you that are hurting. And those are two different things. I don't know if that makes sense. But he needs to see what he's dealing with, or she. They need to see what they're dealing with so that they can help you best. For someone that I know, having a little bit of pot in the evening after work is helpful to them. However you feel on that, the therapist still needs to know. If you have addictions, then that's something different. But if you're having a glass of wine after work, and that's the only, one glass of wine, that's it, that's whatever you're doing, he still needs to know that. Having as detailed of a picture of your life as your therapist can get is going to be the quickest way to help you get to coping skills and healing the hurts and dealing with the truth of what's going on. I can't really, I could talk for hours about this. I've already talked for like 25 minutes. So I hope that kind of helped you a little bit. And again, like I said, shoot me a message if you want to talk more. I am happy to do that. I'm on Facebook, obviously. I am on Twitter. There it is right there. This right there.
Other side. Other side. It's the other side, honey.
Oh, it's over here?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. It's at OUBad on Twitter. It's at OUBad _ on Instagram. And I'm on Facebook as Mel Samples. So if you need to shoot a message, I am happy to talk. I am happy to talk you down. I'm happy to hold your hand. I'm happy to listen as you spill. And I'm happy to just sit and talk about shit to get your mind off of something too. It's important to have that safe space. And I promise you, you and I have known each other for 11 years now, I think. If you don't know that I'm a safe space by now, I don't think that I have any other way of proving it. But definitely, reach out. I'm available almost any time that someone needs me. So hopefully that helps you a little bit, and hopefully that also helps some other people that may be struggling with it too. So thank you for writing in. I appreciate that, and please let me know what works for you, so that I can update our viewers and kind of help them try different ideas as well.
I made some notes.
Oh, good.
Shocking. I know. I just wanted to kind of throw in a couple of different ideas and speak on how you asked me before we started recording how I dealt with anxiety. And I said, yes, let's save it for the podcast. We'll save it. I might as well just answer it for everybody. So for me, and I'll give you a couple of ideas, our viewer or viewers, that Mel, different ideas that Mel didn't talk about. Not better or we're just different. I'm just going to throw some other ideas out there.
Different things work for different people.
Exactly. So you take with it what you want, whatever, anybody who's dealing with this. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm as optimistic of a person that you will ever meet.
It's kind of disgusting at times, actually. And I say that with love.
She does. She says that with love. But I do suffer from seasonal depression. It usually hits right about January, mid-January, right around there when it's just really super bleak and it's all been. I moved from, for those who don't know, I moved from Indianapolis to Texas at the end of February. Part of the reason is because of the weather.
That makes sense.
And knowing that there was water available to me. My Pacific Islander blood, I'm half Filipino. My Pacific Islander blood, it's woven in my DNA. I need sun and I need water, preferably a body of water. It's too expensive to live on the beach. Otherwise, I probably would be living on a beach somewhere. So I'd be in Hawaii, probably. Probably. That's exactly. That's on the beach. But it's ridiculously expensive, and I have this thing about, you know, tsunamis and hurricanes and not drowning. There's
no sense of adventure.
I know, right? But just being near water is very soothing to me. If you are somebody that is like that, and you're near a body of water that you can walk around or just sit and just watch the ripples, that has a very calming effect. Or play sound effects on your phone, those soundscapes that
yes.
The beach and the ocean, and close your eyes and sit and breathe. One of the things that I had spoken about, I think it was in video too, dos videos. That's not a Spanish word. It just sounded.
Dos videos.
Is that what that is? I don't know what that is. I don't know.
Not to be confused with Dos Vidania.
That's what I was thinking. I don't think that's what.
Anyway.
Anyway. What, I lost my train of thought because of that.
You were talking about being around water and the ripples and sound effects and things like that.
Video two, what I'd spoken about is one of the things that really helped me at the beginning of my divorce when I was completely crippled. It's a very crippling thing to go through if you've never gone through it. Any breakup is, but you know, when you've been married to somebody for 12 years and tried to make it work, separated twice prior, and like really and it was done. It's very crippling. So there were moments when I would be like in the Walmart parking lot or a Target parking lot. I just very distinctly remember a Walmart one. It was really super late at night. I was like, I don't know, probably 1 o'clock in the morning. It was probably after one of our conversations, Mel.
Probably.
Probably left your house at 1 o'clock in the morning and like was stopping at Wally World to get something. And I just remember not being able to move from my spot, not being able to get out of the car because I had this just overwhelming, it wasn't a panic attack. I've only had one in my life. I thought I was having a heart attack. In fact, when I had the panic attack, it was like the next day I called my doctor. They put me on the stress test. And then
what it feels like.
We realized it was a panic attack. And it was right before we separated for the second time. I was on the phone with my parents when I was having the panic attack, actually. I was on the phone with both my parents. Anyway, so I was sitting in the car, and one of the things that really helped me and still helps me when I have that overwhelming sense of like I'm going under the water and like that wave is taking me over, is to place my hands, fingers spread on my, like if I'm sitting down, like right now I have it spread out on the table. Sometimes I'll spread them out on the table or like on my thighs, and just there's a tapping. You can do the tapping mechanism. I just like tap, and then eventually I'll tap to like a rhythm, like a tune, like I'm almost like I'm playing a piano, and eventually I forget what it is that I was feeling, and I focus on my fingers and I focus on the rhythm. So I remember sitting in the car doing that. And then I remembered that a phrase that always helped me was, in this moment, all you have to do is breathe. So I would breathe in for 3 seconds and breathe out. And I'd do that 3 times. And then I'd say to myself, all you need to do in this moment is open the car door. and I would open the car door. And I would say to myself, all you need to do in this moment is get out of the car and close the door. And I would do that. All you have to do in this moment, those words are very important. In this moment is turn around and walk into the store. Count your steps, Anne-Marie. Focus on your breathing. All you have to do in this moment. And anytime that I feel like that wave's taking me over, I stop, I do this, I put them down, 3 breaths in, 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out, and I repeat that mantra. All you have to do in this moment. The next phrase that helps me is to remember and to tell myself, this moment is not forever, it is for right now. What am I feeling in this moment? Recognize, observe the feeling, don't become the feeling. Oftentimes for me, if I get hit with a bout of anxiety, and I, again, can't remember if I talked about this on the first video or the second one.
I think it was the second one.
The second one is oftentimes because I'm such an empath, it was the second one. If I am connected to a person, it doesn't matter if we're in the same room, 100 miles apart, 40 minutes away, it doesn't matter. If I'm connected to somebody, I can feel them. It's an empath, good, bad, blessing, curse thing. So there are sometimes, often, more often than not, I'll get hit in my gut with a bout of anxiety that has nothing to do with me. I have to sit and I have to breathe and I have to recognize the feeling. And if there's nothing going on around me, then it's something is happening with somebody that I love or somebody that I care about. And about 90% of the time, I'm right. I can't explain.
I can attest for that, because there have been times when I have been overwhelmed with anxiety and a DM or a text comes through from you and I'm like, God, she's good.
And I've done that before with other people. I've done it through tweets too. Like I will reach out to somebody that I love and that I care very deeply about. And I don't know how I know. I just know that I just know what they're feeling. And if I could hug them, I would. So there are times when I'm like, and I'll just say, I know. And oftentimes they'll get the tweet or the DM or whatever. And they'll be like, God, how'd you know? I can't explain it. I just know. So for me, it's a little bit different because a lot of the time the anxiety isn't my own. I have to recognize that. Some of the other things that help me is because I'm such a spiritual person. She's pagan. I'm Christian. I pray. Prayer is a very important part of my day. I talk to God. You could talk to your creator, whoever you believe that is to be. There is a creator. It doesn't matter who that is for you. But for me, it's God. God is the creator, and I talk to him a lot throughout the day. I really think it's, Duchess. She's so
I might get back on the Christianity train if that's the case.
Right. Okay, so prayer and meditation is really important to me. I don't know if that's something that you do, but it's not something
to interject here. I said it jokingly, but there are people who are atheists and who don't believe in creation as a whole. You can talk to your animals.
Yeah.
You can talk to pictures of someone.
For sure.
You talk and get it out is basically, what it is. Send it out to the universe.
I'm just speaking from me, what works for me, what's important to me, what helps me as prayer and meditation. And it's a conversation for me. It's not, I'm not sitting down and reading scripted prayer. I grew up Catholic, but I'm so much more Christian than the phrase that I have heard somebody else use that fits really well for me is I'm more Buddhist than Baptist, I guess is that.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Like I'm more spiritual than subscribing to a certain religion, I guess. In any case, moving on from that, music is my entire life. Music is everything to me. It is everything to me. I always have it on. I don't have it on right now because I don't want it to interrupt our podcast, but it's very rare when you will find me without it. From the moment I wake up, actually when I sleep, I have music on. It's usually like a sleep playlist. It's very calming music. Sometimes it's strings and piano. Sometimes, you know, it's hard for me to sleep regardless, but that tends to help. I can't listen to anything that's got words because I'll sing. I'll stay. It has to be an instrumental thing. Otherwise, I will be up singing with the music and I'll be like, God, that's a good song. And then I'm never going to get to sleep. So music works for me. Something that I haven't tried and I don't, but I know that other people do. So I'm going to suggest this. And I know that you'll agree with me. And I should have mentioned it before, but adult coloring books.
Yes. God, I didn't mention that.
Yeah, and I knew that that's something that you did and that you subscribe to, and I think that's a great tool. It's right along with spreading those hands and tapping the fingers. You find a rhythm. You forget what you're doing. It's that coloring. You're not thinking about that feeling. You're thinking about, and what color do I want? And that it switches the focus. It changes the mindset. So that's another thing. You talked about walking outside or like kicking dirt or whatever. For me, boxing is a big thing. If I'm angry, if there's a lot of pent up aggression, I like to hit things, which sounds really bad. But it's just this, there's a power in it, but I can control that power. It's a controlled power, but that definitely helps get the aggression out for sure. So I don't know if you're a physical, person, but any sort of exercise, it's the trifecta, guys. I always talk about the trifecta, and I posted earlier today about it. It's the mind, body, spirit. It's all connected. It's all of it is connected. And the more you move, the more the blood gets flowing, and the more those fantastic natural drugs start forming in the body. So
I had a list of those things that you're talking about right now, and I didn't even touch on them.
So there's that. I think that's, there's a book that really helps too. It's called 28 Days of Gratitude.
Yes.
Look into it. I do believe it. I believe it's the same author as The Secret. That's a great book. But 28 Days of Gratitude is actually an interactive book. And I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Yeah, I can't recommend that book enough. The other thing is, for me, I just want to thank you for trusting us with this topic. I think it is important. I know it is for both Mel and I that in your being vulnerable with us, it helps us talk about a subject that's important to both of us. It hits home for both of us. Mel, is a very important person in my life. And as such, as she has dealt with all of these things in her life, anxiety, depression, I also suffer from social anxiety. And part of that is it's not overwhelming to me where like I can't be in a crowded room or, like I completely shut down. It's just, it's a very mild form of social anxiety because I'm a very social person around the right people. But I can get pretty quiet. Most of the time, that's just because I'm observing everybody in the room and not just taking a look and like, oh, who's here? And, I am looking at every single thing that they're doing, the way I am a reader of body language, and I will interpret it. And that's how we talked about that in the second video, how I will know if you and I are going to be friends within the first 5 minutes. And you're like, 5 minutes? And for me, part of that is a good chunk of that 5 minutes is I'm observing every tick, every brush of the hair, everywhere you look, how you are breathing, how you are standing, where you are standing, how you are standing in proximity to the next person, how loud your voice is, how quiet your voice is. Like I am observing every single thing. And in those 5 minutes before I even have a chance to say anything, I'm going to know, which is also why I don't do well with small talk. Because I've already had that conversation in my head by observing you. You just said everything I needed to know without words. See-hoo. There's that. Back to what I was saying before. It's very important to us to break the stigma of mental illness. And the only way we're going to do that is talk about it.
And that's why I am so open with my life, and I'm so blatantly honest about my struggles.
Yep.
I have posted pictures of my stack of dishes in the sink and the overflowing hamper of laundry, and how long it's been since I took my last shower, because the thought of getting in the shower and then back out of the shower takes so much energy from that moment. Like, I'm honest because I want other people to know that they are not alone. And it doesn't have to be diagnosed for you to feel similar. You don't have to be diagnosed at all with anything. And you can still have anxious moments, and you can still have moments where you're down. It can be situational, and just, like Anne-Marie was saying, a breakup or a move, a job loss, your kids moving out. I struggled very, very hard with empty nesting after my kids grew up and moved out. It doesn't have to be diagnosed depression or anxiety.
Nope. But thank you for trusting us with that and allowing us to talk about that subject. It's something that we are very passionate about, and it's not something that we're going to stop talking about. We're going to keep talking about it, because that's the only way that we break through that stigma as a society. Yep.
And touching on that, we're going to be sharing things on the Facebook page, with links that we think could be helpful, and videos or music. And one of the things that I will be posting later on is a project that I took part in called This Is My Brave. It's a nonprofit that helps people who have been touched by mental illness, either personally experiencing it themselves, or living with someone with it. And the project is amazing. You can go to YouTube and look for This Is My Brave and hear stories from people all over the country. But I'll be sharing my video and my story on our page here very soon. Mental illness and mental health, not just the illness, but the health part, is what Anne-Marie and I want so much to normalize and help with in any way that we can.
We're very passionate about that. I think I already have my topic our topic for the next one. Believe it or not, it just popped into my head. So I don't want to share it here because we've already run on long enough.
Right.
But we're gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna post this, and we're gonna post an intro into this video too, and I'm gonna try to do a better job of staying in this so I can stay in frame. No, you gotta come this way. Yeah, you were fine the other day, but Sherry, beloved Sherry Shepherd, she commented on the post, the intro to this. She's like, that was really good, but half the time I couldn't see your face. I could only see half your face. And I was like, I couldn't get it into the frame. I couldn't get the whole vid into the frame. So I'm like, maybe if I do this and then I cut it down, it's good.
Maybe we just need to take a screenshot of our conversation.
I think because it's just here, then I can get it in the right one by one.
Okay.
I just had it in that landscape mode, so I couldn't get it. I couldn't get both of us in there. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you for everybody who's
15 minutes later.
15 minutes. We knew that the first one's gonna be long, and that's okay, because if you just listen to like the first 45 minutes and then take a break and come back at it, we'll be right here. I really hope that you guys have made it through this entire thing, whether it's in one sitting or in two. I pray that you have, mainly because it's a very important topic of conversation, and I think the deep dive that we just did today is going to help somebody. That's my hope. That's my prayer. I'm just throwing that out there. Again, our goal is to help people navigate these muddy waters and offer some advice and a safe space for you guys to come to and to help you guys find your own light. So I hope your light is good today. And if it isn't, let's help you find some together. Okay. Okay. And with that, at some point we're gonna get a theme song.
Yes, I have a couple of leads, so I'm hoping.
She's got
And if you have made it to the end of this podcast, comment petrichor. I love that word.
You're gonna have to spell it for them because they're gonna not.
You know what? I don't even care how they spell it. Wing it.
Whatever. It's fine. It's better than jujube. That's what we had in the video, the second video. Jujube was going to be the word. But thank you guys. And if you do enjoy this and what you listened to today, please subscribe. Click that bell button so you guys can get notifications when these pop up. We've had a lot of people already tell us that they're looking forward to seeing how this glows. And I say that purposefully. We can only glow up from here. This isn't, we don't have the great boom mics and the professional equipment. All we have are two hearts.
Give us time. We will get sponsors.
It's the little engine that could. This is the platform that we finally figured it out.
Maybe our Akasha would like to sponsor.
If you had that in focus, they might be more willing.
Well,
it's really, if you'd like to sponsor us, that'd be podcast. That'd be swell, sweetheart. I can't get my loud.
And we promise that all of our podcasts will not be 2.5 hours long.
Not all of them.
No. Some of them.
Some of them, like this one, was really important. The very first one is very important that we did that. So you guys know really what we're trying to do here. Thank you for also watching the test pancake, the train wreck that was. I promise you no pancakes were harmed in the making of that video.
I have a car alarm going off somewhere around here.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so until next time, I got to figure out a better sign off because my Peace Out Pimp Nuts only works on my personal channel. I don't think it doesn't feel right here. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I guess that's I can't do it. I'm like, peace out. Like that's my things. We'll have to figure it out. So until then, I send you so much love.
Mine is always love and light.
That's always mine. That's my hashtag and every post that I do, because that's what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to help you guys navigate and find your own light. So much love, so much love, 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 love. And love yourself a little bit too, okay? I love you.
I love you.
So that's it. We out. We out. Bye. I don't know how to stop recording this. Okay. See, we're going to get this.